The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like fading insects as I finished my shift at Midwest Distribution. 10:30 at night, and I was still here, making sure the third shift had their orders straight. That's what you do when you're a warehouse supervisor. You stay late, you come early, and you pretend it matters. My phone vibrated against the metal desk. Taryn's name lit up the screen, but when I answered, all I heard was muffled laughter and her voice, distant but clear. "You're so much better than him, Colt. God, I can't believe I wasted 10 years. The line went silent. My hand trembled as I set the phone down. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. You'd think after 10 years of marriage, I'd be the one getting the midnight giggles. Instead, I'm sitting in a warehouse that smells like diesel and broken dreams, listening to my wife tell another man he's better than me. Colt Rainer, her college boyfriend, the one who got away until he started showing up at our neighborhood barbecues 6 months ago with his perfect smile and his Tesla. The one Taryn suddenly needed to catch up with every Tuesday and Thursday. I drove home through empty streets, past houses where normal couples were probably sleeping next to each other instead of plotting affairs. Our house looked smaller in the darkness, the paint peeling worse than I remembered. Mrs. Henderson's curtains twitched as I pulled into the driveway. That woman saw everything. Taryn was already in bed, her phone charging on the nightstand, her breathing too even to be real sleep. I stood in the doorway watching her perform innocence, and something cold settled in my chest. "Rough night at work?" she asked without opening her eyes. "Yeah," I said. "Real rough." The next morning, she was gone before I woke up. A note on the kitchen counter. "Meeting clients early. Dinner with Colt tonight, just business. Don't wait up. T. Just business. Right." I opened our phone account online and checked the family locator. Taryn's phone showed her at Morrison and Associates, her marketing firm downtown. Normal, expected. But at 2:47 p.m., both her phone and Colt's phone appeared at the same address, 1247 Riverside Drive. Colt's bachelor pad. My hands clenched around my coffee mug hard enough to crack the handle. At 5 o'clock, I left the warehouse early for the first time in 3 years. Jimmy, my assistant supervisor, raised an eyebrow. "Everything okay, boss?" "Just peachy, Jimmy. Just peachy." I drove to Riverside Drive with my heart hammering against my ribs. The luxury high-rise gleamed in the afternoon sun, all glass and steel and arrogance. Taryn's Honda sat in the parking garage next to Colt's Tesla like they belonged together. I sat in my truck for 20 minutes, watching the elevator numbers light up. 18th floor, Colt's floor. The rage built slowly, methodically, like pressure in a boiler. When I couldn't stand it anymore, I got out. The Tesla's paint job was flawless, midnight blue with chrome accents. I pulled out my keys and dragged them along the driver's side, spelling out "cheater" in letters 2 feet tall. The metal shrieked against the paint like a scream. Then I slashed his front tire with my box cutter and left a note under his windshield wiper. "Hope you enjoyed the ride. Next time, try not to screw another man's wife in the process. Yours truly, Derrick Mallon." I was walking back to my truck when the flash went off. Mrs. Henderson stood 20 feet away with her phone pointed at me, her face lit up with malicious glee. She'd followed me here. Of course she had. "Smile, Derrick," she called out. "This is going straight to Taryn." My phone buzzed 30 seconds later. A text from my wife. "What the hell are you doing at Colt's building?" I typed back, "What the hell are you doing at Colt's building?" No response. I drove home and waited. Taryn's car pulled into the driveway at 11:23 p.m., 3 hours after her supposed business dinner should have ended. She came through the front door like nothing had happened, humming some song I didn't recognize. "How was dinner?" I asked from the living room couch. She froze in the hallway. "Fine, just business stuff. Boring. Mrs. Henderson says hi. The color drained from her face. What? She took some interesting photos today. Want to see them? Taryn's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Finally, she said, Derrick, I can explain. Save it. I stood up, every muscle in my body coiled tight. We both know what this is. The question is what we're going to do about it. She tried tears first, then anger, then bargaining. I listened to it all with a smile that felt like broken glass. It didn't mean anything, she sobbed. It was just, I was lonely, and you're always working. And Colt made me feel like a woman? I finished. Yeah, I heard that part of your conversation last night. You pocket-dialed me, genius. Her face went white. You heard everything. I walked past her toward the stairs. Sleep in the guest room tonight. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. Derrick, please. Good night, Taryn. I lay in our bed, my bed now, staring at the ceiling and planning. The old Derrick would have filed for divorce quietly, split everything 50-50, and moved on with wounded dignity. But the old Derrick hadn't been humiliated by his wife and her college boyfriend. The new Derrick had different ideas. Work became my sanctuary. The warehouse never lied to me, never pretended to be something it wasn't. Forklifts and freight and the honest sweat of men who showed up and did their jobs. No backstabbing, no affairs, no bullshit. But even there, the whispers followed me. Heard Mallon's wife is stepping out on him, I caught Jerry saying to Mike by the loading dock. With that rich prick in the Tesla, Mike replied. Saw them at Bennigan's last week, all over each other. I walked up behind them. Gentlemen. They scattered like roaches when the lights come on. My phone buzzed constantly. Taryn trying to explain, Colt wanting to talk like men. I deleted every message without reading past the first line. Let them sweat. The real knife came at Morrison & Associates' annual client appreciation party. Taryn had begged me to come, said it would look weird if I didn't show up. I should have known it was a trap. The party was held at the Riverside Country Club, all marble floors and crystal chandeliers, and people who thought their shit smelled like roses. I wore my best suit, a 5-year-old Men's Warehouse special that looked exactly like what it was. Taryn appeared in a red dress I'd never seen before, something that probably cost more than I made in a week. She hung on my arm like the perfect wife, introducing me to her colleagues with that fake smile she'd perfected. This is my husband, Derrick. He runs logistics for Midwest Distribution. Runs logistics. Like I was some middle manager instead of the guy who kept their supply chain from falling apart. Then Colt arrived. He wore success like cologne, expensive, overwhelming, and designed to make everyone else feel inadequate. 6'2", perfectly styled hair, a suit that probably cost more than my truck. He worked the room like he owned it, shaking hands and dropping names and making everyone laugh at his clever little jokes. When he reached us, the temperature dropped 10 degrees. Derrick, he said, extending his hand like we were old friends. Great to finally meet you properly. Taryn talks about you all the time. I stared at his hand until he lowered it. I bet she does. The smile never left his face, but his eyes went cold. She says you work in warehousing. That must be fulfilling. It pays the bills, I said. Speaking of which, how's your car running these days? His jaw tightened. Fine. Thanks for asking. Taryn grabbed my arm. Derrick, let me introduce you to... Actually, Colt interrupted, I was hoping to steal Taryn away for a quick chat about the Henderson account. Business, you understand. He led her toward the bar, his hand resting on the small of her back like he owned her. Every person in that room watched them go, then looked at me with a mixture of pity and amusement. I stood there for exactly 30 seconds before walking out. The parking garage was cooler, darker, honest in a way the party wasn't. I was halfway to my truck when I heard footsteps behind me. Derrick, wait! Taryn clicked across the concrete in her heels, breathless and flushed. You're embarrassing me, she hissed. These are important people. My career. Your career? I turned around slowly. Or your boyfriend's career. He's not my. She stopped, caught. It's not what you think. Then explain it to me, Taryn. Explain why you're dressed like a call girl at a party where everyone knows you're sleeping with another man. Explain why you introduced me like I was some embarrassing relative instead of your husband. Her face twisted with anger. Maybe because you act like one. Look at yourself, Derrick. Look at this suit, this attitude, this whole victim thing you're doing. You think I don't know what you did to Colt's car? You think that makes you look strong? Stronger than pretending everything's fine while you spread your legs for your ex-boyfriend. She slapped me, hard. The sound echoed through the parking garage like a gunshot. I touched my cheek. My teeth had cut my lip. Feel better? Go to hell, she whispered. Already there, sweetheart. You put me there. She turned and walked back toward the elevator, her heels clicking like a countdown timer. I watched her go and felt something fundamental break inside me. When I got home, I transferred our entire savings account, $47,000, into a new account with only my name on it. Then I canceled our vacation to Mexico and used the refund to book myself a trip to Florida. Solo. My phone rang at midnight. Taryn. The money's gone, she said without preamble. It's safe. Derrick, you can't just... Watch me. I hung up and turned off the phone. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 2 years and drove to my old friend Jenna's apartment. She lived in a converted warehouse downtown, all exposed brick and industrial fixtures. Real, honest, like the old days before everything went to shit. You look like hell, she said when she opened the door. Feel worse. She poured coffee and listened while I told her everything. Jenna had known me since high school, back when I still believed in things like loyalty and love and marriage. She'd never liked Taryn, said she was too ambitious, too cold, too much like her mother. So what's the plan? She asked when I finished. Plan? Don't bullshit me, Derrick. You didn't come here for sympathy. You came here because you're planning something, and you need someone to tell you it's okay to be the bad guy. I stared into my coffee cup. She destroyed me, Jenna. In front of everyone. Made me look like a fool. So destroy her back. That's not who I am. Maybe it's who you need to be. She was right. The old Derrick was gone, ruined in a country club parking garage by a woman in a red dress. Time to see what the new one could do. I spent the rest of the day planning. Taryn had always been careless with passwords. She used the same one for everything. Sunshine 85, the year we met. She thought it was romantic. I thought it was stupid. It took me 10 minutes to access her cloud storage from my laptop. What I found there made my stomach turn. Photos, hundreds of them. Taryn and Colt in his apartment, in hotel rooms, in his Tesla. Some were artistic, the kind of shots you might see in a magazine. Others were raw, explicit, the kind that left nothing to imagination. But it was the text messages that really got me. God, I forgot what it was like to be with a real man, she'd written to Colt 3 weeks ago. Poor Derrick. He tries so hard, but he's just adequate from 2 months back. Sometimes I wonder what I was thinking, marrying him. He's like a puppy, loyal and boring. I screenshot everything, every photo, every message, every cruel comment about our marriage, our private life, my inadequacy. By the time I was done, I had enough material to destroy both of them 10 times over, but I needed to be smart about it. I started with Colt's wife, Maya. I'd met her once at a neighborhood barbecue before everything went to hell. Pretty woman, quiet, seemed genuinely nice. She deserved to know what her husband was doing. I created an anonymous email account and sent her a carefully curated selection of the evidence. Nothing too graphic, just enough to make the point. I included a note. Thought you should know what your husband does on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. Then I waited. Maya called me 2 days later. Her voice was steady, controlled, but I could hear the rage underneath. "We need to talk," she said. We met at a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory. Maya looked like she hadn't slept in days, but her eyes were sharp, focused, dangerous. "How long have you known?" she asked without preamble. "A week. You?" "I suspected for months. Colt's been different, distracted, happier." She laughed bitterly. "I thought he was having a midlife crisis. Turns out he was just sleeping with your wife." "What do you want to do about it?" She smiled, and it reminded me of a shark. "I want to destroy them both, publicly, completely, and I think you're exactly the right person to help me do it." We spent 2 hours planning. Maya had resources I didn't. Money, connections, access to Colt's business dealings. I had rage and nothing left to lose. It was a perfect partnership. "There's a company party next Friday," Maya said as we prepared to leave. "Morrison and Associates is throwing a rooftop celebration for landing the Hartwell account. Taryn will be there, and so will Colt. It's the perfect venue for a public revelation." "What did you have in mind?" "Leave that to me. Just be ready to play your part." That night, I drove to Colt's gym. He was religious about his workouts every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Creature of habit, just like his affair with my wife. His Tesla sat in the parking lot like a middle finger pointed at the sky. I'd already keyed it once, but that was just the opening act. This time, I came prepared. I poured a bag of sugar into his gas tank and used Taryn's lipstick, the red one she'd worn to humiliate me at the country club, to write cheater across his windshield. Then I superglued his door handles shut and slashed his other 3 tires for good measure. As I was walking away, I pulled the fire alarm. The gym erupted in chaos. People poured out of the building in various states of undress, confused and angry. I watched from across the street as Colt emerged in his workout clothes, saw his car, and started screaming at anyone who would listen. Nobody cared. Rich asshole with a vandalized Tesla wasn't exactly a sympathetic figure. I drove home whistling. Taryn was waiting for me in the living room, her face pale and drawn. "This has to stop," she said. "What has to stop?" "You know what? The games, the revenge, all of it. We need to talk about this like adults." "Adults don't sleep with their ex-boyfriends behind their husband's back." She flinched. "I made a mistake. You made a choice. Every Tuesday and Thursday for 6 months, you made the same choice. Don't insult me by calling it a mistake." "Fine. I made choices. Bad ones. But this thing you're doing, this campaign against Colt, it's not going to bring me back. It's just making everything worse." I sat down across from her, studied her face. She looked older than her 35 years, worn down by guilt and fear and the knowledge that her perfect little affair was turning into a nightmare. "Who said I wanted you back?" The words hit her like a physical blow. She actually recoiled, her hand going to her throat. "Derrick!" "You destroyed us, Taryn. You took 10 years of marriage, 10 years of love and trust and building a life together, and you threw it away for some good dick and the fantasy of being with a rich man. Did you really think I'd just forgive and forget?" I hoped. You hoped I'd be the same pathetic doormat I've always been. The loyal puppy who'd take whatever scraps you threw him and be grateful for it. I leaned forward. "But that man is gone. You eliminated him. What's left is something else entirely." She started crying then, real tears this time. Not the manipulative ones she'd tried before, but I felt nothing. No pity, no regret, no love, just cold satisfaction. "The party's Friday night," I said, standing up. "I'd suggest you don't go." "What's Friday night?" I smiled. The end of everything. Friday came like Christmas morning when you're 8 years old and you know there's something special waiting under the tree. Maya picked me up at 7 in her Mercedes. She looked stunning in a black cocktail dress, her blonde hair pulled back in a severe bun. She'd transformed from grieving wife to avenging angel in less than a week. "You ready for this?" she asked as we drove downtown. "Been ready my whole life." The Morrison and Associates rooftop party was in full swing when we arrived. The city sparkled below us like scattered diamonds, and the beautiful people of the marketing world mingled and networked and pretended their lives had meaning. Taryn stood near the bar in a blue dress that hugged her curves perfectly. She looked nervous, checking her phone every few minutes, scanning the crowd like she was expecting trouble. She was right to be nervous. Colt held court near the buffet table, regaling a group of admirers with some story that had them all laughing. He'd replaced the Tesla with a BMW, but his arrogance was intact. "There they are," Maya murmured. "The happy couple." Not for long. We split up. Maya headed for the AV equipment while I made my way through the crowd, smiling and nodding like I belonged there. A few people recognized me from the country club disaster, but nobody said anything. Rich people hate scenes almost as much as they love gossip. At exactly 9 o'clock, Maya gave me the signal. I walked to the microphone at the front of the party and tapped it twice. The feedback screech got everyone's attention. "Good evening," I said, my voice carrying across the rooftop. "For those who don't know me, I'm Derrick Mallon, Taryn's husband." The crowd murmured. Taryn's face went white. Colt started pushing through the crowd toward me, but Maya's hired security, 2 large men in dark suits, blocked his path. "I wanted to thank you all for coming tonight," I continued. "It's not often we get to celebrate such a successful collaboration. Speaking of collaboration, I thought you might be interested in seeing some of my wife's recent work." I nodded to Maya. The projector screen behind me lit up with the first photo, Taryn and Colt in his apartment kissing passionately by the window. The crowd gasped. Someone screamed. Taryn started pushing toward me, but more security appeared to keep her back. "This is what a successful partnership looks like," I said as the photos cycled through. 6 months of Tuesday and Thursday meetings. Very productive meetings, as you can see. The photos got progressively more explicit. People were pulling out their phones, recording everything. This would be on social media in minutes, viral by morning. "Derrick, stop!" Taryn screamed from across the rooftop. "Please!" "Stop?" I laughed into the microphone. "Why would I stop? This is your work, honey. You should be proud of it." The final photo appeared, a selfie of Taryn and Colt in bed, her engagement ring clearly visible on her finger as she touched his face. "Marriage," I said to the stunned crowd. "It's all about trust, communication, and finding someone who shares your values. Taryn and I clearly have different values, so I thought it was time to share hers with all of you." I set the microphone down and walked through the crowd toward the exit. People parted before me like I was radioactive. Behind me, I could hear Taryn sobbing and Colt shouting threats, but I didn't look back. Maya caught up with me at the elevator. "That was beautiful," she said. "That was just the opening act." We rode down in silence. In the parking garage, Colt's BMW sat alone under a flickering fluorescent light. I'd been saving the best for last. I popped the trunk of Maya's Mercedes and pulled out a large black garbage bag. Inside were all the gifts Colt had given Taryn over the past 6 months. Lingerie, adult toys, jewelry, love letters, everything I'd found hidden in our bedroom closet. I dumped it all on the hood of his car, then pulled out a can of spray paint. "Cheating whore" went across the driver's side. "Homewrecker" on the passenger side. I was working on the hood when the elevator dinged behind me. Colt emerged like an avenging angel, his face purple with rage. He'd lost his jacket somewhere upstairs and his shirt was torn. He looked like a man whose world had just collapsed, which it had. "You snake!" he screamed, charging at me. I sidestepped and let him crash into his own car. The impact sent the adult toys flying everywhere, and a pink vibrator rolled under a nearby Lexus. "Careful," I said. "You'll hurt yourself." He swung at me. I caught his fist and twisted his arm behind his back, slamming him against the car. "Here's how this works," I whispered in his ear. "You're going to stay away from my wife. You're going to stay away from me. You're going to crawl back to whatever hole you came from and pretend this never happened. Because if I see you again, if I even hear your name mentioned in connection with Taryn, I will make tonight look like a gentle warning." I shoved him away. He stumbled, caught himself against the car, stared at me with a mixture of fear and hatred. "You're insane," he said. "No," I replied. "I'm just getting started." Maya and I left him there in the garage, surrounded by the debris of his affair, trying to figure out how to drive a car covered in spray paint and adult toys. "What now?" Maya asked as we drove away. "Now we wait for the fallout." It didn't take long. By Monday morning, Taryn had been fired from Morrison & Associates for conduct detrimental to the company's reputation. The rooftop video had gone viral, shared thousands of times across social media platforms. That rooftop revenge was trending on Twitter. Colt's business suffered too. His company's biggest client, a family values corporation, pulled their contract after the photos surfaced. His wife filed for divorce and took half of everything he owned. But I wasn't done yet. The divorce proceedings were a thing of beauty. Taryn's lawyer, a slick downtown type who probably charged more per hour than I made in a week, tried to paint me as an abusive husband who'd driven his client to seek comfort elsewhere. My lawyer, a bulldog named Patricia Wells who specialized in cases like mine, had other ideas. "Your Honor," she said during the settlement hearing, "my client has evidence that Mrs. Mallon's infidelity was not only extensive, but premeditated and calculating." She played the audio recording I'd made by leaving my phone hidden in our bedroom during one of Taryn's business calls with Colt. Taryn's voice filled the courtroom, crystal clear and damning. "He doesn't suspect anything," she was saying. "He's too trusting, too stupid. We can keep this going as long as we want." "What about the money?" Colt's voice responded. "His salary, the house, all of it? I'll get half in the divorce, maybe more if I play it right. Make him look like the bad guy, claim emotional abuse or something. Then we can be together properly." The judge's face remained impassive, but I saw her jaw tighten. Taryn slumped in her chair like a deflated balloon. "In light of this evidence," Judge Morrison said, "I'm awarding Mr. Mallon the marital home, the full savings account, and spousal support from Mrs. Mallon for a period of 2 years. Taryn's lawyer objected, but it was too late. The recording had destroyed any sympathy she might have garnered. Outside the courthouse, Taryn cornered me by my truck. "You destroyed my life," she said. Her face was pale, her eyes red from crying. She looked like a ghost of the woman I'd married. "You destroyed it yourself," I replied. "I just made sure everyone could see the wreckage." "I loved you once." "No, you didn't. You loved what I could give you. Security, stability, someone to fall back on while you chased your fantasies. But you never loved me." She started to cry again, but I felt nothing. The woman I'd loved was gone, had probably never existed in the first place. That night I called the moving company. Everything that belonged to Taryn, clothes, books, furniture, family photos, went into boxes and got delivered to Colt's apartment building. I had them stack it all in the lobby with a sign, "Free to a good home, slightly used cheating wife's belongings." The building manager called the police, but there was nothing illegal about delivering someone's possessions to an address they'd specifically requested. I had the text messages to prove it. The final confrontation came at Bennigan's bar, the same place where Mike and Jerry had seen Taryn and Colt together months ago. It was Friday night, the place was packed, and half the crowd knew who I was thanks to the viral video. I was sitting at the bar, nursing a beer and enjoying my newfound celebrity status when they walked in together. Taryn looked terrible, thin, haggard, like she hadn't slept in weeks. Colt looked worse. His business was failing, his wife had taken him for everything, and the stress was showing. They didn't see me at first, too focused on finding a quiet corner where they could hide from the world. But the bartender, a guy named Tommy who'd known me for years, made sure they noticed. "Hey, Derrick!" he called out loud enough for the whole bar to hear. "Look who just walked in!" Every head in the place turned. The conversation faded. Taryn and Colt froze like deer in headlights. I turned around slowly, smiled, raised my beer in a mock toast. "Well, well," I said, "if it isn't the happy couple, how's married life treating you?" "We're not married," Colt said quickly. "Yet," Taryn added, trying to sound defiant. I laughed. "Right, because nothing says true love like a relationship that started with lies and betrayal. I'm sure you'll be very happy together." "Just leave us alone," Taryn said. "Haven't you done enough?" "Done enough?" I stood up, and the whole bar went quiet. "Sweetheart, I'm just getting started." I walked over to their table, and the crowd followed me with their eyes. Some people were recording with their phones. This would be online before the night was over. "You want to know what's funny?" I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. 6 months ago, I thought I was the luckiest man alive. Beautiful wife, nice house, stable job. I thought I had everything. "Derrick," Taryn started. "Then I found out my wife was sleeping with her ex-boyfriend every Tuesday and Thursday while I was working overtime to pay for the lingerie she wore to his apartment." Someone in the crowd whistled. Another person laughed. "So, I did what any reasonable man would do," I continued. "I gathered evidence. I planned my revenge, and I executed it flawlessly." I leaned down so my face was inches from Colt's. "How's business, by the way? I heard Hartwell Industries dropped you after they saw the photos. Something about family values and corporate image." Colt's face went red. "You ruined everything." "I didn't ruin anything. I just showed the world who you really are." He stood up fast, his chair scraping against the floor. For a moment, I thought he might actually take a swing at me. The whole bar held its breath. Instead, he grabbed Taryn's hand and started pulling her toward the exit. "That's right," I called after them. "Run away. It's what you do best." Taryn stopped at the door and looked back at me. For just a second, I saw the woman I'd fallen in love with all those years ago, young, vulnerable, full of dreams and possibilities. Then she was gone, and I was alone with a bar full of strangers who thought I was either a hero or a monster. My phone buzzed. A text from Jenna. "Saw the video. Beach looks better with you. When do we leave?" I looked around the bar one more time, at the faces watching me, waiting to see what I'd do next. At Tommy behind the bar, grinning like he'd just witnessed the greatest show on earth. At the empty doorway where my old life had just walked out forever. I finished my beer, left a 20 on the bar, and walked out into the night. Behind me, I could hear the conversation starting up again, people already turning my marriage into a story they'd tell their friends. The warehouse supervisor who destroyed his cheating wife and her rich boyfriend. The man who got his revenge and walked away victorious. They called me the villain. But in the end, I was just the storm they begged for. 3 days later, Jenna and I were on a beach in Florida, drinking margaritas and watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. My phone had been buzzing all day with calls from reporters, producers, people who wanted to turn my story into a movie or a book or a podcast. I turned it off and threw it in my beach bag. "Any regrets?" Jenna asked. I thought about it. About the man I used to be, the marriage I thought I had, the life I'd built and watched crumble. About Taryn and Colt, probably holed up somewhere trying to figure out how to rebuild their shattered existences. "No," I said finally. "No regrets at all." The waves crashed against the shore, endless and eternal, washing away footprints and sandcastles and all the things that seemed permanent until they weren't. I was 40 years old, divorced, unemployed, and probably unemployable after the media circus of the past month. I'd never been happier in my life.